Welcome back to another tutorial with Mr. Arsenault. Today we're going to look at slicing for 3D printing. Okay, the first thing we need to do is find a 3D image or a file that we can print. So I'm in 123D design, no longer supported, but it's fairly good to use still. I'm going to select my file drop-down menu and export as 3D. This way I'll have an STL I can future slice. Select STL. Now it says to combine objects. Right now I have my eyeball and my fin, if I press cancel, as separate pieces. If I want to keep working on this piece, I would not combine it through my combine tab. But if I did combine it through my merge combine option, it would be 100% all together. By doing it this way, it's still together on my plate for printing. However, my 123D file is still intact for editing. So I'm going to select combine objects. That way everything goes to the 3D printer as well. Click OK. And I'm going to send this to my desktop, call it fish, desktop. Save. Now another way we can do 3D imaging is through Fusion 360. So I have Fusion 360 open right here. In my browser, I'm going to scroll down until I find my bodies that I want to export. So here I have my body 1 of the bolt. I can right click, select Save as STL. It's going to give me my pop-up for saving. Everything looks fine. Medium refinement is fine. Click OK. I'm going to call this a bolt. Send it to desktop, and here I have my nut. Right click, Save as STL. One more time, nut. Perfect. Okay, now I'm going to go into my slicer. Now this slicer is called Prusa Slicer. It's free at prusa3d.com. If you're at school, there's likely going to be an icon looking like this, black and orange, Prusa 3D, on your desktop or in your program files. Now as soon as you open it, your settings over here will not be like mine. Okay, quite likely you'll have the default settings. So what's going to happen is you're going to have to configure your printer by selecting Configuration Wizard if it doesn't already pop up on its own. Now we're using a Prusa i3 MK3. So Prusa i3 MK3, that's right here. I'm going to select only the nozzle that I'm using. I'm at home, so I have 0.25 and 0.6, but if I took them off, it still wouldn't matter. Okay, so you want just that if you're playing around at school. Click next, next, next. Updates won't matter because we can't update on school computers anyways, and finish. Now it pops up with our default settings for the Prusa i3 Mark III. I'm going to change the filament from Prusa filament, Prusament PLA, to generic PLA because that is what we have purchased. And now I'm ready to go. Click and drag, you have all your options there. Over here on the left hand side, we have our choice of rotating, scaling, cutting, moving, etc. So to start off, I'm going to add. I'm going to find my objects. I have fish. Let's start with fish. Right now my fish has been loaded. If I want my fish to show up the other way, I could just select it, select rotate, and I could grab the axis I want to rotate in, which is the blue one, and rotate it around. Now if by chance it was on the wrong axis, like let's say I added my nut or my bolt came in correctly, let's add my nut. And there we go. Open. Now I can't see my nut, so I'm going to select my fish, hit garbage, nope, not that, delete, on the keyboard. Move my nut over. Now let's say your bolt. Let's say the nut came in at a different angle. Say it came in looking like that. Okay. What I would have to do is select the lay flat option, place on face, and then I would select what I want to use, and I would select the white face that I want to place it on. So I could choose this face, or I could choose this face right here. Now from here, I can do a couple things. First thing I need to do is check out my settings. So the top right hand side, print settings, 0.15 millimeter, that is standard, that is very good. My filament is already set to PLA, generic, so that's good. My printer is set to the right printer because we did that with our configuration. And now let's look at supports and infill. Infill looks good, and my supports right now, I can tell that I don't need any supports for these guys. Okay, so far so good. If I needed to put supports on, however, I could select my print settings. You guys don't have all these options, so let's check what you will see. Simple. When I go to support material, all I'd have to do is select on. Sorry, volume's a little loud. Click yes. And now you can select whether you want to just have your supports on your 3D print or on the build plate only, meaning that it won't actually stick in between parts just from the build plate up, depending on what you need. Okay, now I know that these guys are fairly small. So if I'm dealing with fairly small parts, fairly narrow parts, or fairly round parts, what I want to do is add what's called a brim. I can do that by selecting there as a shortcut, or under my print settings, I also have skirt and brim options here. Right now I've set my brim width to 5 millimeters because I want to guarantee to stick. Now I'll show you what that'll look like. Once I hit slice now, it'll perform its slicing, and anything that's green will be my support and my brim, so excess material. So right now, I have this large piece of a brim. Now the reason why I want this large piece is because I want to give the part as much print time as it can have. What I mean by that is, if the nozzle prints around and around and around too quickly, there's a large chance that the print itself will get disconnected from the print bed and fail. Whereas if I have a large printing surface, it'll stick well, so even if it goes fast on these smaller parts, there's a greater chance of it succeeding. So go back to print settings, go back to support material, I'll turn off my generate supports, back to my plater, I will reslice it, and now you don't see any green, you just see the extra brim that we have. Now if I wanted to make this guy bigger, I go back to my plater, this is a shortcut, or I can go up here, another way. You'll notice that it still says export G because it's already been previously sliced. Right now it's saying I'm using 1.23 grams. So if I want to make these guys bigger, I'd select it, go to my scale factor. I could select scale factor of 200, press enter. I know it worked because my size has now doubled and all of my scale is doubled as well. That also means I have to select my bolt and select that to 200, otherwise it won't fit. Alright, if you do not deselect and reselect to go back into the scale factor from the plater settings down here, chances are it will not register correctly. So when you're making sure that your slicing is set and the scale is working, make sure that when you reslice it, instead of saying 1.3, the gram count goes up. Now I'm at 6.24. So that looks good. Now if I was doing my fish, back to my plater, delete, off we go. I'm going to add my fish. My fish has a large surface volume, so I don't need to add an extra brim on that. That's just going to waste extra material. So I'll take that off, and now once I slice him, 16.31 grams, I know I'm within my range of whatever my teacher's given me. I can select export G code. From here, I'd select wherever I'm going to save it to, in which case it'd be the card under this PC, be down here as another drive, and I'd select a color. So I need a name first, so let's go Mr. Arsenault, Mr. A, and let's go green. That way the teacher knows who to give it to and what color it can be. From there you hit save, click save, it does a little flash, and because it's already been sliced, it's on the card. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.